This is the Creality CR-10 SE. Let's go. So I think it's mostly up to date. I'm referring to the thing on screen, the chart, and the 10 SE is here. It's a bit weird actually because most of the CR10 series prior to this one have been larger 300mm bed-size printers, which makes you wonder what Creality thinks is the distinguishing element of their CR range. What makes a printer a CR10 rather than an Ender 3? Reason I say that is because this bit, I don't have one to show you, but this bit and probably other bits too are from the Ender 3 S1, which was released in 2021, I think. The CR10 SE does in fact run Clipper, or rather it runs Creality OS, which is Clipper. This machine is pretty high-spec though. 2 Z-axes with independent steppers, albeit driven from one driver I think, linear rails on X and Y, it's got a light bar, it's got a 300°C upper limit on material temperature, it's got PEI sheet, Wi-Fi control, 2 filament reel holders on the top, and that actually helps a lot. I think we're done here. I can probably pack the review up and go home. Thank you for watching. I should just do every review like this. The point being that this has all the features a bed slinger really can have. Even the part cooling is actually pretty good out of the box. Speaking of, we're not messing about in this review. It is time to look at the inside of that hot end. Things are about to get weird. There are just 3 screws, by the way, to open this bit up. It's probably one of the better designed cowlings that I've seen because it's not a struggle to remove or put back on and you don't really trap any wires. It actually has channels it slides into, and the fan is indeed pretty respectable, as you can see. But as you can also see, you might recognise this hot end. This is the 3rd revision K1 hot end. It's mounted on a sprite extruder. I guess you can do that, there's nothing stopping you, but it does kind of make you wish that they'd done that on the K1 in the first place, because the sprite extruder is probably the 2nd best stock extruder out there. It is an insanely reliable extruder, and it's been on loads of Creality models, and I think you really have to look quite hard to find someone who really doesn't like the sprite extruder, because it is extremely performative. So this printer is using the K1 hot end on Clipper, but with a much less problematic implementation, ultimately. The K1 hot end has Volcano-ish performance of 32mm cubed per second, but it's also got a 60-watt ceramic heater, so it's actually very performative with really quick heat-up times. I actually think that's a really good combo. I hope they plan to use this in the upcoming KE version of the Ender 3, and from the pictures it certainly looks like they do. You have this setup paired with a CR Touch, and unlike the Ender 3 V3 SE and the K1, there is a strain gauge on the tool head. The former 2 use strain gauges in the bed. The strain gauge is right there, I think. The combination of strain gauge and CR Touch mean the printer can calibrate the distance between the 2, and that means fully automated leveling and Z offset. So this is yet another machine from Creality that has a completely hands-off setup and leveling process. And with that, let's have a look in the base. Nothing much in here to talk about. The board is not one I'm familiar with, but I think we have X, Y and Z drivers on the board, and the extruder is palmed off to a tool head board that we just saw on the hot end. There are some unpopulated parts on this board. I don't know where this board is from. Either way, the brains are clearly in the screen on this printer because there's nothing here that's running Clipper. It's worth opening that, I think, in a moment. The main thing of note here, before I put this back together, I've never taken apart an S1, but I notice how it looks like there's a cast aluminium frame which will give it a really decent rigidity. Normally on these kind of printers that would be bolted together extrusion to create that kind of frame underneath. This I think is going to actually work out more expensive to do, but it will be significantly more rigid and solid. Before I take the screen apart, there is a port in the back for an ADXL of some sort. Maybe this is an optional extra along with the LiDAR and camera that you can apparently add to this printer too somehow. The light on the top, by the way, is just switched manually. There is no clipper control for it. That's just taken straight from the S1, I think. I've done a few prints on this machine and I find the quality pretty adequate. One thing to note is that it's actually one of the faster slingers that I've used, which is not really quite emphasised in the marketing, I don't think. I think it would probably benefit also from tuning the input shaping for the machine rather than relying on the preset values. How that works in practice remains to be seen at the moment, but it seems like there is a plan for how to do that. So, summary time. It's a more expensive machine than the upcoming KE that it seems to share a lot with, so that does raise some questions as to what the CR-10 SE offers. One of the main things that it offers right now is being available. If I do get a KE to review, I'm not sure if I will or not, then I will actually try and do a side-by-side to see what the real-world differences are. I actually find that this is a pretty workable printer, and it is as no-nonsense in setup as it is to use. I've been using it quite a lot for a few functional prints, and also half of the rocket that I did for the Prusa Slicer video recently for the pegs part. It did a pretty good job, and it was quite fast on that, even though I had to make a profile for it based on the things I knew, because I wanted to use it in Prusa Slicer rather than natively in Creality Print, where it's set up to run faster. And I've also done some stuff there too in Creality Print, like this bamboo removal tool was printed, and I think it took 35 minutes, which is very fast. I like the aesthetics of the printer, I like the colour and the overall look. It's very much better than the Ender 3 KE. I don't have one, but in the pictures that tool head definitely looks... yeah, I think the Creality Print ecosystem is starting to show some promise. I don't actually find that I have a problem with using Creality Print at all for most normal prints, so if you're okay with that, then it makes the whole process quite convenient and about as integrated as the Bamboo system is with their slicer. I guess that's the way both companies are heading with their own entire ecosystems. Although, as an addendum to this exists apparently to kind of do something similar in Cura. I've not tried it, I probably will. Anyway, there you go. I've just got to put some eyes on this thing and then we're done. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.